Okay guys, in this video I'm going to be making a olive oil milk soap, and it's going to be a Castile soap. So there are going to be a few things that you'll need for this video. You are going to need lye, which is your sodium hydroxide. You're going to need potassium hydroxide, and you're only going to be using 0.3 ounces of the potassium hydroxide, and then you're going to be using 3.7 ounces of the lye. And I have a cup for my measuring, and I'm going to first use the lye. So we have 3.7 ounces. Put some of this back because I have too much. And you're going to need a, I'm using a, let me see here, a Taylor glass top kitchen scale. I had to grab the box so I can see what the brand was and tell you the right brand. So that's what I'm using to measure out my lye. So we have, there we go, 3.7. And I have this towel in here just because I don't want to mess up my counter or anything. So whatever mess I make is going to get soaked up into this towel. Just an idea for you. Next, I'm going to clear out my scale, and I'm going to do the 0.3 for the potassium hydroxide, and that's what's going to help your soap become Castile soap. The next thing I'm going to do, I like to use this here because it's cheap. You can get it from Lowe's for your paint or whatever. So I use this because it was only like maybe $2 to put my olive oil and so forth. I'm going to first get my water because we're going to use, well, I'm using a coconut milk powder, and I'm only going to do 2 scoops of that, but we're going to need 9 ounces of water. Okay, so I'm going to clear my scale once again, make sure everything is at 0, and I'm going to take and pour my water in. I'm going to do 9 ounces of water because this requires 9 ounces of milk. So then my milk comes with this little scooper, so I'm just going to scoop some milk in there, and you want to make sure that you stir slowly with this so that it can kind of break up, or you can use like a blender or something. Yeah, I'm just slowly stirring it in so my milk can dissolve. And you probably could just use regular coconut milk also for this, so that way you don't have to do the powder and the water mixture. And then I'm going to pour my lye into, I'm gonna set this back up here so you guys can see, set it on the scale. So then I want to slowly pour my lye and potassium hydroxide in the milk. The only thing with the milk is it makes your milk turn yellow, and you don't really want to scorch your milk, but it's kind of hard with the lye because it gets extremely hot. So you just want to keep an eye on it. The good part about this is that our olive oil is not going to be hot. We're just going to have to wait for everything to dissolve into our milk. So I'm going to set this aside, and then we're going to measure out the olive oil. So we're going to use 30 ounces of olive oil, and I'm just using extra virgin olive oil. So we're going to do 30 ounces here. Set this olive oil aside. It's very dark green, and we're going to wait for our lye mixture to dissolve. And sugar is optional. I'm going to use 1 tablespoon of sugar. You can use 1 tablespoon of sugar or 1 tablespoon of salt, or you can do both. It just helps with the lather on the soap. So that is optional if you want to grab that, and I will be back once our lye has cleared up. Okay guys, so I'm going to take and put my milk and lye mixture into my olive oil. Take my emulsifying blender and start blending. Just want to blend until you get like a little trace. I don't have that trace just yet, but I want to pause because I want to, that's not gonna work. So I want to take my sugar. I have some organic brown sugar, and I am going to take a tablespoon of that and place it into there. And I'm stopping in between just to check my trace before I put my fragrance in, because I don't want to get a false trace. And the fragrance that I'm going to use is eucalyptus spearmint. And you only need one ounce per pound. I've been doing this for a while, so I can kind of measure things out. So we have about 3 pounds. thick trays. So this is another optional step. I have some sodium lactate, and it's 1 teaspoon per pound. I am only going to do 1 teaspoon, even though I have 3 pounds. But you can do 2 if you want. This, you can do 2 or 3. But this is not only just a preservative, but it helps your olive oil soap to get harder, because olive oil soap tends to be very soft. So this just helps the bars become harder slightly quicker. I'm just going to mix that in. Okay guys, so I had to lighten this up a little bit. All right, now we can see. You're going to have your soap mold. This is a 3-pound soap mold here. And you're going to need some plastic wrap and of course your handy dandy towel. So you're going to take and just pour your soap into the soap mold. I do not do any fancy designs most of the time because I'm not really savvy with that. I could do a couple little indentations, but yeah, we're not doing that today because we're not going to embarrass ourselves. So I'm going to take my plastic wrap and put that over top. Tear that off. And then you're just gonna let this sit for 24 hours. Make sure that you take your towel and you wrap that. So you let it stay nice and warm and let it do whatever it's gonna do. Don't uncover it. Just make sure that you wait 24 hours before you uncover and you cut. And then once we wait these 24 hours so that the lye can burn out and the potassium hydroxide can burn out and we have some nice bars. If the soap is not hard enough to cut within 24 hours, just let it sit in the mold. Like sometimes I'll let it sit in the mold for an additional week. We're going to see what happens with this one. But sometimes I'll let it sit in the mold for an additional week before I cut, just because I don't want to mess up the bars. And that's the other great part about the sodium lactate. So we're going to let this sit for 24 hours and then I'm going to show you where it's at, and if we need to wait an additional week, then that's what we're going to do, and then I'll show you the cutting of the soap.